Firstly, I'd like to ask, who here, aside from you that were there, who's actually saw a Dogtroep performance? You put up your hand? So that's good, that's a reasonable number.
Left side, only the left side. So.
Left side, okay. And who has seen some video of Dogtroep? So a few more. Okay, so I think most people have got a bit of an idea, but this is why I wanted to show some video here. Show some video because you know, it's primarily a visual theatre that we're talking about, and so it can provide a bit of an atmosphere and some points of discussion. And also please excuse because I don't necessarily pronounce your names exactly as I should, but I'm getting used to it. So I'll start with introducing everybody. So we have Warner van Wely, founder of Dogtroep in 1975. Vincent de Rooij. Yeah. Jos Sandvliet. Titia Bouwmeester. Bakker. And over here, we have Septimia Kuhlmann. Yeah, and Csilla Lakatos. Okay. So we will also join in the conversation, and I really want this to be a conversation, and you know, not all just talking. I've had a wonderful opportunity to talk to most of the people here today over the last few weeks and learn about it. And I'm not going to make any assumptions today about how much people do or don't know. Welcome, come on in, it's okay. Make any assumptions about how much people know about Dogtroep.
And this is Cathrien Bos.
Cathrien? Ah, Cathrien. Hi, I'm Gavin. Hi, how are you? Another one. So I'll explain to you why this has all happened and why we have it's such a happy occasion that we have today to have everyone here. Very happy for me. So I'm a PhD student at the Australian National University in Canberra, but I was also in the 1980s and 1990s a practitioner of theatre in Australia that was quite similar to Dogtroep, a group called Splinters. And they made site-specific outdoor spectacles, and a lot of it was unrepeatable, one-off style work, although we also used to occasionally put on long seasons of work and things like and so on, and even sometimes we made plays in theatre. But nevertheless, it was work that was generally unrepeatable, and then when the company ended in 1998, and people basically disappeared from Canberra, so I'm pretty much one of the only ones left in Canberra. They've all moved to other places and they've all gone on to really interesting careers. But one of the founders of the company, he passed away in a car accident in 2001, named David Branson. But he was the man who collected everything, and he collected all of the videos and all of the posters and scripts and so forth. And all of those things had just been in his mother's garage since that time. In 2010, when I decided with another friend that we wanted to do something about this, because the work was unrepeatable, because you could no longer see the work, we were just genuinely worried that the legacy starts to fade and that people will forget about it. And those of you that have never seen a Dogtroep performance, you'll never obviously have the opportunity to do so, unlike your conventional plays which are restaged over and over again. One of the features of work of this period is that it was during the time when, in the 1980s, the portable video camera became reasonably readily available. And so theatre makers like ourselves, of course, wanted to actually actively use the camera. Camera became a tool, not only for documenting the work, but for reflecting on the work. You know, you can obviously watch it and criticise it and to develop it further. But also, very importantly, as a promotional tool. So it changed the way that theatre was being represented to the public outside of the performance spectrum. So you would importantly have posters. This is perhaps a difference in theatre practice today, less important than it was, but once upon a time, the poster was probably the single most important tool for promoting theatre, and there's incredible wealth of beautiful visual design of posters from that period. But most importantly, it's like, although, as we'll probably hear, and I hope that we'll discuss today, you know, everyone always says when you see these experiences, you had to be there, you had to experience it. This is absolutely true, to get the full value of the experience. But if we don't have that, then the very next best thing that we have is our video. And so when I was coming, I had an opportunity, I heard, went to a conference, a theatre studies conference in Australia, and I met Cathrien Bos here from Utrecht University, who was the keynote speaker at that conference, and he is an expert in intermediality in theatre, I'm sure as many of you know, so the use of different media. And I was very impressed with his address, and we spent quite a bit of time talking at the conference, and he said, oh, we're having a conference here in Utrecht in 2015, and it'd be really great if you could come. And so in order for me to justify my funding from the university, because it's quite expensive to get here from Australia and to stay here for several weeks, I needed a good project. And I said, well, the logical thing for me to do would be to research Dogtroep. Now, we knew about Dogtroep when I was working in Australia. We'd heard of it. I've been trying to remember. I don't think I actually saw anything. We may have seen some video. Somehow we may have seen some footage, but certainly we knew about Dogtroep, as well as we knew about other companies of that period, like Welfare State International, Survival Research Laboratories, groups like that. We certainly were, and we were in contact with some of those groups. And we'll talk a little more about that in a moment. So I started looking for the presence of Dogtroep online, and I found that there was virtually nothing. I hunted around just sort of doing Google searches, and I found the website of Therese Anna, one of the key members of the group, and I actually just wrote to her through her website and said, look, I'm really surprised that there's no video, or virtually no video of Dogtroep available online. She said, well, you've written at just the right time. It happens that a lot of the key members of Dogtroep are meeting at the moment to decide what we should do about it, because we know that it's got a lot of video that's there and it's not been properly stored, and not much of it has been digitised from the early period. Some of the material has been lost from the very early days, which is unfortunate, but that's to be expected. And so she gave me some more email addresses, and I wrote to Warner and Lena Hellings, who sent her love and apologies for today, and Udo Ackerman, also, who is the keeper of the Dogtroep video, and said, look, I would love to help you to be able to get a website going and to lend whatever expertise I can. My research specialises in what we might call now theatre archaeology. So this is a term coined by Mike Pearson of British group Brith Goff, which is another important company from the period that Dogtroep worked in. So it's this idea that it's, if we're trying to reconstruct the experience of what happened in past performances, we know how important these past performances were culturally. We know what an impact that they had on their audiences. At the time when we were making the work, perhaps, you know, the critics weren't focused and the makers weren't focused on thinking about conveying a message. They were more about conveying an experience to the audience, and that using these archives, using these video archives in a way that I'll demonstrate once we've actually talked to the Dogtroep a little bit and started on our conversation, that we can use these archives to research audiences. So in other words, we can make these archives available, and if you saw the performance, you can actually respond to the online video, and you can write something about your experience, or you can use tags or other kinds of social media interactions, and in that way we can start to gather some information about the experience of the audience in relation to the work. So that's the work that I'm working on. I also point out along the way, it's become really apparent now as doing a PhD that it's really important, and I want to tell you now as students, that you are properly documenting your creative practice, because if you intend to go on to higher degrees, masters or a PhD in your work, you actually need to go through the kind of process that we're going to talk to a little bit about today, which it's okay. So in other words, it's important to learn about archival and library standards for assembling your video and collecting it and curating it and adding what we call the descriptive metadata to it in order that it then is usable as a research tool. So I'll talk a little bit more about this at the end, because I think we've come here today to hear about Dogtroep, and I'm going to let them do the talking because they know everything and I know nothing as far as this is concerned. So I'm going to start with Warner. I'm going to start with a little bit of video first. Now I've gotten some of this is material that's found online, and others is stuff that was given to me by Udo Orgona. So that's 1983. Okay, good. Come over a little bit closer, we can start a conversation. So, we had a conversation the other day, but I think it would be good to give the audience a bit of background about exactly how and why you decided to start a group like this. What was the inspiration?
Why? For me personally, I wanted to do theatre, and when I was 17, when I was 18, but I was very good in mathematics, so I was sent to the University of Utrecht, and I was every evening in that white Dudok building. And after 2 years, I had the feeling, oh, this kind of theatre is horrible. kind of art of the past. And then you start to sniff around. So that's a long. It has been a long time of sniffing around.
Yeah.
And at the moment I had to finish my study, and I thought then I have to quit art for a period. So I thought I make a break of a year. I go to England, and I went to Welfare State. Who I have seen in. Also, it's called the Shaffi Theatre, what's now the Felix Meritis building in Amsterdam, using all the rooms and the canal in front of, and traveling with the audience from one thing to another thing. Being very informal. If you went, I think they were 6 weeks there. If you went 2 weeks later to the same performance, you saw that the play was completely changed. I went there and I could work with them because I played alto saxophone.
That's the thing. That's the only reason. The only reason.
And the first thing I did was a week long in the rain, in the mud, sawing through telegraph poles of wood, making points of it in fire. And digging holes in the ground where it is because they were making an earthwork, a kind of statue that is in the mud, basically. A very large scale, so it was 1 week of. At the same time, there was the musical director, Lol Coxwell, who is a kind of completely top saxophone player in the ambiguous area of being a street player as well, but he's one of the best musicians in that time of England. So there was this strange level of working in the mud and working with people who I never would have got a chance in Holland. Still, why? I think I brought the Welfare State Handbook with me. What I would like to do is read their first manifesto.
Please.
Because that is much clearer than, first of all, what was Welfare State? Welfare State was, when I came there, I thought I went to a theatre company. All the people came from art college.
Yes.
But a kind of Aki-like, but much wilder art college than, but yeah, so, huh? Yeah, it was a Leeds Polytechnic. Now I have to go through the appendices to find it. Yes. Welfare State Manifesto. I have to stand in the light. 1972. Welfare State makes images, invent rituals, devise ceremonies, objectify the unpredictable, established and enhanced atmospheres for particular places, times, situations and people. So there's no talk about any curtain or theatre. In current terminology, we fuse fine arts, theatre and lifestyle, but we aim to make such categories and role definition in itself obsolete. We make art using the traditions of popular theatre such as mummers, circus, fairground, puppets, music hall, so as well being entertaining and funny and apparently familiar in style to a regular popular audience. For our work also has a more, but our work also has a more profound implication. We use modern equivalents of Bosch, Bruegel, and Grunewald in the context of 20th century's entertainment and existentialism. I don't need to read it all. It gives an impression.
Yeah. But you say, I mean, this kind of work had evolved out of the happenings movement, starting from the late 50s to the 60s,
right.
And then it became taken to the streets. So,
yeah.
So the original idea that came from performance art, then groups like Welfare State and Bread and Puppet Theatre went, well, we're going to take it out now of the art spaces into the streets. And so this
Yeah.
is really how
That
you...
in the very early performance art and happenings, it happened as well.
It happened,
El
yeah.
Capro was one of the first.
Yeah.
Puts, just to give an example, that it is theatre, but it's not about acting or whatsoever.
Yeah. So
And
the example that I gave, and this is why I showed this one first. I mean, this is what you would call an infiltration. What we just said there.
Sorry, can you repeat your question once more? You asked what you asked Warner.
I was asking him how and why, but I was asking, you know, this type of street performance, which from our conversations and our conversations with others, is what he called an infiltration. And I thought, well, is this an example?
But the very first question you asked Warner how he how it became a group, how he
Yes.
started the group.
Yes.
And,
We can continue.
I think it's nice to add something to it,
Sure.
because he points out now his personal history.
Sure.
But there is another line in your life, I think.
Sure.
Is,
You know it very well.
I know very
That's
well.
amazing.
So that's why I'm telling
Yeah.
you, because I
Sure.
think it's very important to add it. Because there was a student group that did lots of theatre. I forgot his name. You know who it is. I'm talking
Multiple
about.
realities, you mean?
Multiple realities. I think that's a very important, has
Sure.
been workshops all
Sure.
together, and that's from that kind of work
Yeah.
they started to make, also they were looking for ways to look for an audience or a
Yeah.
situation where you could perform in. I think that's where it all started, because quite a lot of people who were in it started it, the Dogtroep.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. Well, please.
Just to
I
add
mean,
that part.
obviously, it wasn't just Warner, but I was just going down a different, a slightly different channel there. So others joined. Jos was there in the early days. You were in this performance as well.
Yes.
And how did you come to be involved?
Well, I was for 1 year on art college, and on art college I also played music in the breaks, and it was quite wild. They say you have to do art, and it's not a conservatory. So then you see already quite a mix of how things can happen. In that time also, the group. It's called House Lakatos. They just finished arts college. People know them. And they were also from art college, like Alex van Wandam. He was painting the decor of their group in the art college. So then you see all the sections of art already mixing. And well, we met by music. And if you meet music and you have a bit broad view on life, you also can see, okay, we can make dinner together, and we can make dances, and we can make art, and we can go in life of people, and where we can share all these feelings.
Sure.
So then we met, and then I was.
We met completely by chance, because there was a guy living underneath me in the house where I lived, and he was the closest music friend of Jos. So in that room we played. And
We played music, and then Dogtroep started, and I could join in easily by playing music.
Maybe it's good to say the Dogtroep didn't really start. We started to do things. We didn't plan to start a company, but it went very fast. The kind of work that came from British performance art.
It was a time that in the place where we met, down there was a fish shop, and in the fish shop there were, in the day, there were two men laying there in the vitrine of the fish shop, and they had not a job. And
They were mermaids.
There were mermaids, and they played something. But this is so funny time that yet you, and these days I think such things happen more and more again, that you give people opportunity to explore the joy of life.
Sure.
Within the life and not within the. That's why I read
Yeah.
that this well.
Out of the theaters, out of the
within the daily life and not in.
But when did it get a name?
The house.
We were performing at the Rotterdam Festival,
They needed a
and
name.
they asked a name, and then somebody found out Dogtroep. But there was an English administrator on the festival and he made Dogtroep from it.
Everyone knows what it means. DOG is de op straat gezette troep. So it's been the
Rubbish.
rubbish being put into the street.
And we put this rubbish, we put lampenkap, whatever we use for parades and
It
all
was
the...
also originally de op straat gezet.
So that's how it started, just by mistake,
Sure.
like many things.
Well, look, if I can go back here, why I wanted to ask about this is because what I read, and Ron has written several books, which I encourage you to look at, including The Art of Wild Theatre, which I've got, Lino gave me a copy in English, which is fantastic, is because the first few years you really began to develop different methods of performance, and it was experimenting with different methods.
The difference with our English examples is that Holland was much freer.
Yeah.
In England they were still fighting. They wanted fighting the art world.
Yeah.
Holland was very open in that time, and there existed already a mime world, what was very arty, but who were thinking abstract, and we know about it. We know about Beft was already. I think the first site-specific performance was on the White Theatre here in Utrecht, done by Beft on the roof and in the trees. It was
Working with architects.
working with architects. And Will Spoor at the same time was using musical scripts for his performances. What is the kind of twist that takes you away from Aristotle to make theatre.
But this was a lot of work of disruption going on. What was your intention?
Well, that's what we've learned with this group Cathrien told about.
Yeah.
So our school for that was as well came from English British performance, but more on a psychological side. That everywhere in the public space there are rules, and by giving a twist to them, you make in some way people aware. Maybe not rationally aware, but in their senses aware that they are living always inside the corset of rules and conditions. So it's a kind of playing with deconditioning, and from that comes humor, romance, dream, anything. You can open that up in.
Yeah. Okay.
You can do it in public space. You cannot do that in a theatre because.
You can.
Yeah, because it's very difficult.
Yeah. But then, I mean, you also talk in your book about, the kind of visual language, like you have like juxtaposition and crossing levels, and can you perhaps explain?
I think the basic thing is juxtaposition instead of motivation. So in traditional dramaturgy, motivation is the linking element, and juxtaposition is putting heterological elements beside each other.
So can you put it over there? I ga het doen. Doe het, sorry.
What can I do? What when you put just these two things together, somehow your mind makes up a story. If you put this inside it, your mind makes up another story. But if I put this together with, let's take a very different thing. The issue is then your mind make other things. It's as both abstract, you see shapes, as significance, as possible stories. That's the principle of juxtaposition.
Well, look, we'll maybe show another video from the early period.
That means, I'd like to say one short thing about it. That means that you don't start from one thing making a performance.
Yeah.
You start by putting some things together and look. It's not you who are finding out, it's you who are seeing what's there, and often you see together with the audience. The artist shares with the audience.
Well, this is now 1986, by which time Vincent and Septimia have come into the company. Oops. Oh, hang on. That's all. I don't know why. Alright, we have a technical problem. Just what we need. Yay. There we go.
Vincent, dat was je knap nog.
So this is starting to evolve more of the performances for festivals that you're starting to do. So perhaps, Vincent, maybe you can talk about how you came in at this point and what was your experience of this kind of event.
How to make a sort of logic.
Don't have to be logic.
Well, I joined the group when I was quite young, 23. I didn't have any real experience with theatre, as only I was being a theatre technician for 4 years, and then I didn't like the group I was working with anymore, because they were making mainly boring text theatre.
You want Simons.
And Dogtroep needed a technician, truck driver, and maybe they also asked me if I could make music or build stuff.
Yeah.
So I joined them, and then from that time on, I was member of the group, and I could also they also throw me in the performances as a performer.
Yeah.
We had a great time. Really fantastic.
So
but in this time, I guess the difference. It started. Dogtroep started to make traveling shows, fixed traveling shows.
It was a moment of big change because we got the double amount of money. It's as simple as that, as we got before. So we could professionalize. We could start to make quality. What you call quality. Art is not about quality, but it's another thing. But we could start to make quality.
And we could start. We could handle bigger audiences.
Yeah.
The
base was that we could. We had the money to hire people to do when there was a big job to do things to be hammered or painted or whatsoever. We could hire other people in to do that. So we had just had more time to prepare.
Yeah, we could buy a bigger truck.
Yeah. That's
could,
bigger week.
bring people.
More stuff.
It would be really interesting to see the truck we had when we traveled to Berlin, for example. If you opened it up, it was just like a bin. It was like a bin. And we had to organize every thing that was in there on lists and that It's from then on it became more sophisticated.
Yeah. But it was very much a travelling theatre at this stage. It could become your primary mode of operation. So you
It has been traveling from the beginning on.
Yeah.
right from
Yeah.
the beginning.
In '78
Yeah.
we went already to
Yeah.
Tunisia.
Yeah. But I mean, you mentioned, I think, that in a conversation that there was lots of funding for festivals around at that time, and so we were able to travel because in Germany, places like that, people had lots of money to spend on this.
France.
Yeah, France.
The first year, Jack Lang.
Yeah.
La Havre.
Tell me.
Yeah.
Yeah. The eerste was Hamburg. The very first was Copenhagen.
Yeah.
Copenhagen. Yeah.
Yeah, but in France suddenly there was a lot of money, and there were no companies there. Now France is the main country for that kind of work. But we were the first on the continent in Europe, the first more large-scale company doing.
Yeah. And so the performances were getting bigger and bigger. I mean, what sort of audiences were you coming to these kind of thousands of people?
No, thousands.
Thousands, yeah.
2,000 or 3,000.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. And go up. Okay. Well, I'm going to keep moving along because I want to get to the part where we can sort of, people can ask questions. So, Warner, you eventually decided to step down from the company because it was starting to get bigger beyond how you wanted to work.
No.
No? Okay, please go.
Because making it bigger is the thing you do yourself. No, I got tired. Just that. 15 years is time. These times that there was more money as well. We start companies like this. At least Welfare State was exactly the same as we.
Yeah.
There are some core people that stay, like Jos stayed 30 years, I think. But other people come and leave in shifts.
Yeah.
Like there was a shift where Vincent, Septimia, Trace came in.
Yeah.
So we got more money at the same time. There was a shift of new people. So we had to prove that we worked on. At the moment, there was an enormous load on my head. I only afterwards realized how much it was. So then I got the feeling I like not this is going too big because that was a choice.
Okay.
But I remembered how it was when New York worked smaller, and I had the feeling, yes, I know how this is, and we can go on forever with it at the moment, but to find out more precise things, you have to work smaller.
Well, look, in that case, I would like to perhaps introduce Han, who came on board as business manager in 1989, was it? And you asked we show this little excerpt, which I'll show now, which is, in fact, one of Warner's last shows, which is Leningrad. Okay, I'll stop it there. Perhaps it's a good time to talk about a little bit about how the shows actually got put together, because this was your method that you developed, and which, when then passed the baton on to Trays and working in partnership with Han, who kept applied that method and then worked it on a bigger scale. So it might be useful, perhaps, if
I'd like to say something
Yeah.
in Dutch
please.
to this audience.
Yep.
Ik moet even opwarmen van wat was het ook alweer, Dogtroep vroeger. Maar hij vroeg net aan mij, wat gebeurde dan in jouw periode? Nou, ik was vrij jong en ik ging met hun mee naar Duitsland en allerlei optredens doen. En het bijzondere van Dogtroep is dat zij bijna in hun systeem opgenomen hadden. Wij willen spelen voor mensen die gewoon niet vaak naar theater gaan. En hun confronteren met knettergekke dingen waardoor ze ondersteboven raken. Wat Warner net zei, het meest belangrijke van Dogtroep werk, en ik denk kunst in het algemeen, is om mensen uit hun comfortzone te krijgen met dingen die ze niet verwachten. En dat heb ik altijd het meest fantastische gevonden om bij Dogtroep te werken. Die beginjaren, dat we ergens in Polen of in Duitsland of waar dan ook iets liepen te doen wat knettergek, abstract, waanzinnig was. En waar mensen stonden te kijken dat hun bek open viel. Echt zo van, wat? En je wist dat die mensen daar nog 2-3 weken mee bezig waren. En wellicht nog jaren daarna. En dat gebeurde ook. Wij zijn echt mensen tegengekomen die hebben gezegd, ik heb Dogtroep gezien. En sinds dat ben ik op een andere manier naar het leven gaan kijken. En heb ik mezelf opnieuw uitgevonden. Nou, dat is echt wat Dogtroep zo bijzonder maakt. Dat ze in die beginjaren gezegd, wij willen niet in theaters. Want daar zitten al die mensen die al verstand hebben van kunst. Wij willen het mensen in het gezicht drukken die dat juist niet gewend zijn. En dat vind ik het mooiste en het leukste van Dogtroep. En daarna werd Dogtroep bekend en groter en succesvol. En dat was ook heel leuk. Maar de beste herinneringen heb ik aan die infiltraties, aan dingen doen waardoor mensen hun mond openvallen en je ziet van, nu kan je dat bijna niet meer doen. Als je dat nu in Amsterdam gaat doen, iedereen is al gewend en die zegt, oh dat is kunst, oh dat is theater. Tenzij je iemand neersteekt zo'n beetje. Maar dan vraagt niemand meer af, is dat nou kunst of is het nou een terrorist? Als wij dit werk nu zouden doen, zouden we ook vaak in de gevangenis belanden. Daar ben ik van overtuigd. En toen was dat nog niet. Maar dit was mijn korte...
Wat fijn is,
Translate it to you later.
als je het nu zou doen, dan zou alles gelijk opgenomen worden. Het zou de waard zijn voor want overal camera's.
Ook dat. Daarom is het ook goed dat een... Nou ja.
No, I'm happy to hear about that later. I mean, the issue for me, I guess, in coming to a new culture is actually trying to work out the right kind of questions to ask. Because in fact, the kind of questions that we would ask in Australia seem to be quite different. So I'm kind of like learning how to ask the right questions at the same time as wanting to learn about the work. And it's important because there is virtually nothing on Dogtroep in English. There's a couple of translations. Warner's book, The Art of Wild Theatre, is in English. There is literally only maybe 1 or 2 scholarly articles in English on the company, which is a great shame. But there's plenty written about groups like Welfare State and so forth. If you're going to make a proper account of the experimental theatre of that period, then there's a big gap there that needs to be filled to give a proper accounting of it, and that's sort of my aim for it. So I go about collecting my information in the way that we do in Australia, which is you just keep asking questions, and if people think that you're a fool because you don't know the right question to ask, you go, I don't care. So anyway, so we'll move on. Now the period that happened next after this, when Anna became the artistic leader, and she very much gives credit. Says here absolutely that she was following what she'd learned from you when she made the work, but all of a sudden the work was scaled up a long way, and you had Han came as a business manager, and all of a sudden the money began to flow. Now, why do you think that was? That all of a sudden the funding was increasing. It became something that was fashionable, popular at the time.
Well,
Can you explain it?
Actually,
Annie moet even daar zitten. Ja, dat kunnen we niet zien.
Yeah, come and sit.
The catalyst for that growth came actually, in my perspective, I think there's more perspectives to it, from the fact that we are losing our money. The Dogtroep had some subsidies from the state, and the cultural council, the Raad voor Cultuur at that time, decided that our work was outdated. Someone, the president of the committee, summarized it as schon da gewesen. And I'll never forget that. And we really fought back. And the system of funding 4 years companies in the Netherlands was just new. And Dogtroep managed to get into the system and was thrown out, let's say, in the second round already. And by fighting that position, we had several strategies, and one was to go for the media, which was at that time not done. As an artist, you wouldn't go for the media. Now you can't believe it, but it was really not done at that time. And but we went for the media, and we went for, let's say, more fancy projects. So we were lucky. We got an invitation to go to the opening of the Winter Games in Albertville, 1991. And we got one of the most famous sport commenters, Mart Smeets, to give comment to our performance. It was a summary, like 5-minute summary on Dutch television, but we had millions of people that watched that. And then immediately after that, we started lobbying for the Dutch parliament. And so all of a sudden, we got high visibility through the media, and we undertook all kinds of actions to get back into the financing system. And we were discussed in Parliament for the first time, like such a thing was discussed. Later it became, we had many followers. And we were together with the people from the, let's say, that also one with BEFT. They were also pushed out, and Grift was pushed out. And so with the three, we fought for getting back our position. And we did, we managed, which was unique. But all of a sudden, we were so much in the spotlight that we got commissioned with, let's say, new work, and so it was a sort of radicalization of our work. We were invited for the opening of, after Albertville, for the opening of Sevilla, the World Expo. Yeah. And
we were on national TV also.
National TV.
The New Year's Eve.
Yeah, and New Year's Eve, and then Spain, and then Jos came. I think it was you who came in and said, I found an incredible site. I think that was 1992, 1993, which was on the NDSM-werf.
Oh, site, yeah, right, so the website.
No,
okay, that's time.
There was no website. There was no and which was, and it was, but I mean, Dogtroep did work with water before, but
could collect all the energy of all the little works in.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, but it was a wish of to do a performance with water again, and we found this incredible site, which could contain a large number of audience, and at the same time to work on that site also.
The dog.
Yeah, the dry dock was rather expensive. So we had to find a way to finance that performance, and so we started selling tickets. We did some experiments before, and then we because at the time of Warner, no tickets were sold.
For the indoor performances, yes.
Okay.
For the outdoor performances, there were many reasons for not doing it.
By festivals or
You were paid by festivals,
cities.
but in that time you started to ticketing at the same time the main French groups, Royal Deluxe and Jean-Luc Vapeur, put in the contract there shouldn't be paid any entrance. So it's a change of ideology.
But simple, the bigger scale, we worked out something lovely, and I remember the Mandarin show. We wanted to give it to people, So we played it in even Uzbekistan, and I remember in Deventer when the audience can watch it. Well, with the organizer we discussed, can you put like you have a tribune now, you sit on a tribune, you can watch. Yeah, but it costs something. Okay, how it costs? Oh, that means you pay 5 gulden per person.
Yeah.
And later we did a show in Deventer, I remember, on the yard. And then the friends of us say, wow, it's just 5 guilders for such a lovely thing. So it's in a way, money is not a bad thing. It's no, it's really sharing.
I love it.
No, it's about energy of people. They give money to share.
Yeah, but there is a difference,
Yeah.
even if it's very little money, that there has to be a fence around it.
Yeah, and you don't get the people that are not used to theatre.
Yeah.
That's what you get if you ask a ticket, because then only people come who are, you know. And if you do it on the street, and then somebody's going to the grocery and he stops because he hears music, and then he gets confronted with art.
Yeah,
This is the difference.
It is true. I mean,
No,
of course you have a point. However, when we repeated that performance on the Dry Dots, so the second year, we did research after the audience. Also, it was also being pressed by the government, so we had to show what sort of audiences we drawing. And interesting was that part of the audience, the profile of the audience was the same as Toneelgroep Amsterdam, high educated, etc. But part of the audience was low educated and low income. And that was, such a combination of audiences was never ever foreseen. And I think it was because of the huge media attention we had at that time. And people were like, we sold out. We sold the whole, I think we did 15 or 20 performances that summer. They were sold out before even the first tryout. It was amazing. How many people did we have on the grandstand?
1500.
1500.
Each night.
So,
Perhaps let's just look at a little sample of work from this period, just before.
Het is niet de Dogtroep, het is een Carré.
Dit is het droogdak en dit zijn weer.
So this is the show we're just speaking of.
Toen het pontje nog niet ging.
it was a criminal site. Drug traffic.
No ferry.
Interesting.
Echt koud water.
It's the former workers from the shipyard. So they got a place in the performance. And And they helped us to repair the dry dock because everything of copper was taken out of it, so they repaired it.
Okay. We'll keep moving on now because I'm conscious that we're actually using up a fair amount of time. So,
Yeah, maybe it's good to add something to Hans' story because why it scaled up. Because when Therese started, she really changed also the method. Because before Dogtroep did many shows like coming somewhere on a site and then making a show in a day. Like, okay, you have this. We had all kind of material, with musical material, with images, with scenes, and then it was just put all together in one show, very in a high-speed, instant creating method. And then Therese came, and she wanted to have not so much like this poetic landscape, but she really wanted to tell a story, which is really a difference.
Yeah, I don't want to tell a story.
Yeah, yeah. And then, and then we also decided. Louder. Now louder. We also she decided and Han together and the team by that time that they wanted to create in 3 different steps. So they started with a small lab, then make a bigger show, and then an even bigger show. So like Noordwesterwals and Carré were made like this.
3 steps.
The 3-step method, and in that period also a lot of new freelancers came in, and there was a new generation that kept coming in, and they actually brought their expertise. So then by the first time we really had specialists. So we worked with actors for the first time. Before we didn't work with actors. Then we worked with musicians, composers, and so they were asked for their knowledge and for their skills, and they also did other things like, but there was much more specialized people. So the artistic quality became different. Different. Because there was more special, and then there was also a lot of time. Therese spent a lot of time in creating a very good team, and she was really like. He was telling me by that time that she was like a kind of general, and we just went somewhere, and she was very well organized, and then we were able to make huge shows in 3 weeks, and that was because of her skills of giving a lot of freedom to all the different people, musicians, actors, composers, and they're all creating their materials, and then putting it monteren it in a new piece. Yeah. And this was something really new, and this was really this golden period or second period of Dogtroep was because there was so many people were there for this 8 or 10 years, all the time like affecting each other and inspiring each other by their exceptional skills. Yeah.
Okay. I have to
and in a way, one was thing, and it was really like a family. So we had like Jos was there, and Septimia was there with me, and then so we had people who were there from the beginning, and there were really people who worked there for 8 years, and really young people like Csilla, Joey, Udo, and me, who were there just the young. So for me, it was so rich to create with this three generation of artists, because they all had their own knowledge, which was really great.
So eventually you became the artistic leader after a tragedy where 2 members of the company died. And you know, I don't want to dwell on that. If people want to explore the history of they can. I understand how profound that must have been. But when you became artistic leader, then what did you then change to put your personal vision
well,
into the company?
Actually, I was very inspired by one of the last shows we did all together in Groningen. Then we were making a performance in a hospital.
Yeah.
And this was a living site. So I really was focusing on living sites, like there in these sites there. This was a hospital, so we worked together with doctors, with people from who worked with the greenery, with the nurses. So we were focusing on not only on the site itself, like the architecture or the physical qualities of the site, but we wanted to focus more and more on the story of the
Community.
Community, yeah.
and not only of the community, but also the building as a building. It is in a certain development, and it contains a huge story. It is a metaphor for social development. Like, for example, this hospital was a metaphor of being able to repair human beings all the time. So I choose more for living sites and seeing the building as a metaphor for that community, but that also that slice of time where we're in. So we were focusing much more on nowadays issues.
Yeah.
And this was a big difference than before.
Maybe it's
And
interesting
also,
to add to that the hospital was enlarged and they had 10,000 employees. It was the largest hospital in the Netherlands at that time. And the president of the hospital said, we want you to make a performance because we want to find a way to create out of this 10,000 people a community. That was the original question to us. Are you able to provocate something into this community that makes, or into the group of people that makes it a community? And then we asked to live there. How long did we stay there?
only
4 weeks,
3.5
maybe
weeks,
for 4 or
3.5
5,
weeks.
6 weeks.
But it was really interesting. Then the first time we came, we started with a meeting of the board. I still remember that. We were talking to all these professors, like about also the ethics of this place. How far can you go in repairing the persons?
Well, you mentioned to me in your communication that the prison was perhaps for you the best statement of your.
Yeah, we did 3. We did 1.
We show a little piece of that, if that's okay.
Yeah, or you can
Eigenlijk
show
ook het proces, omdat we daar met lang gestraften werken in een gevangenis. Dat was wel een intens.
De keuze zeg maar, voor de locatie, waarbij niet alleen de fysieke kwaliteiten van die plek, maar ook heel erg de inhoudelijke kwaliteiten van die plek, dat makers werden uitgenodigd doordat ze er waren, dus niet alleen in hun hoofd, om ook daar in hun werk op te reageren, op dat soort, die dilemma's die daar spelen.
We kunnen dit. We kunnen zo'n heel indringende voorstelling spelen. We kunnen zo'n relatie met zo'n rare omgeving, dat kunnen we dus aan.
In de gevangenis was iedereen van ons. En we hadden gelijk een directeur die dat snapte, die zag de mogelijkheid om een heel mooi project te doen.
Die gedetineerden een groot koor gemaakt. Dus dan ben je heel veel bezig met mensen gewoon te trainen, want die criminelen die konden niet zingen. En wij wilden ze aan het zingen krijgen. We hadden een groep geselecteerd van een man of vrouw of 20 en die hebben gewoon een aantal liedjes geleerd. Nou, dat ging natuurlijk met vallen en opstaan, want sommigen konden echt niet zingen, weet je wel. Knijpen en vallen. We werden heel enthousiast.
Gezien de omstandigheden zou niemand het verwachten dat je ooit nog eens in zo'n situatie gebracht zou worden om je uit te kunnen leven, om tot je recht te kunnen komen. Nou, en ik heb dat kunnen doen en daarvan was ik me op dat moment wel degelijk bewust en dat is iets waarvan ik wist dat wat ik toen heb meegemaakt, niemand me dat meer zou kunnen afpakken.
Terwijl iedereen door die deur naar buiten, naar die bak kwam, stonden wij daar iedereen in kostuum. En wij hebben het publiek welkom geheten door iedereen een hand te geven. Maar het publiek wist niet wie van ons van Dogtroep was en wie van ons gevangenen. En dat is waar het denk ik over ging.
We hadden toen 18 man vrouw en ik ben na het project doorgegaan met het koor en ik had, vervolgens had ik 36 man vrouw. Iedereen die wilde daar mee, dus ja, dat is ontzettend goed om te zien hoe je er 1, 2 maakt.
Okay, so if you'd like to join us again. Look, I'm conscious that we're using up our time and that I'd like to give people an opportunity to ask questions. So, look, let's open the floor up now and please ask any of the members here whatever questions you would like.